7,776. That is the number of battery cells that Rivian put in the R1T. Now, I'm known for reviewing flashlights, so you're probably wondering, what the heck am I doing in the middle of this desert with this truck? Well, I am here to talk about the 7,777th cell, which is hidden right here in the door. Wouldn't you know it, it's a flashlight. All right.
They gotta laugh at that stage.
No, really, one of the most interesting features of the Rivian R1T, at least in my opinion, is this flashlight that pops in and out of the door. So this guy's got a little magnetic charger on the bottom. Rivian has gone so far as to turn what is kind of a joke into something that is actually super useful and well designed. Rivian isn't paying me to make this video or anything. I just genuinely thought this was a thoughtfully and beautifully designed flashlight, just like the actual R1T itself. And like the R1T, it doesn't come cheap. So the torch is included in all Rivians, but can be purchased on its own for $170 for the light itself, or $220 with the magnetic charger base. So I think it's a really neat accessory to include with the truck, but at that price, I'm gonna have really high expectations for this. So it's clearly designed for rapid and convenient use. It just charges whenever it's placed in its base, and the modes can be changed with this small button here on the side. So one press will cycle from low, medium, and high. Very rapid, very easy to use, and I think it's really well optimized for its niche use case. 1,000 lumens. That's a lot of light. A lot more than most people are used to coming out of a flashlight. It's also not true. So I tested this as usual using my laboratory calibrated integrating sphere, and I got 835 lumens from this guy. Now things get really interesting when we graph output over time. The high mode tries to hold its maximum output before dropping down to 450 lumens at 9 minutes. Not bad. Meanwhile, medium gradually falls from 230 to 100 lumens before stabilizing. After the step down, high mode wanders to 350 lumens at about 150 minutes before dying off. Medium is a bit more even. Weirdly enough, the lowest mode shows very poor efficiency, with lower sustained and total runtimes than the medium mode. Now, it's definitely better than your average hardware store flashlight, but sadly, and surprisingly, the battery performance of the Rivian torch really isn't that great. I was quite disappointed to see this. Now, honestly, I don't think it's necessarily critical for this application because this light was designed to be pretty much constantly charging, whatever you put it back into the door, back into its base. But that does lead to another issue, which is that when you have a lithium-ion battery constantly being topped off like this, it will reduce its overall lifespan. Here's the thing. The reason for that poor battery performance is maybe not what you would expect. Turns out Rivian made a really strange choice with the batteries used in the torch. So the YouTuber Jerry Rig Everything did a teardown of the R1T battery pack, and he did indeed find 7,776 Samsung 50G cells. Now I have a few of these Samsung 50S cells, which are very similar. These are really great cells. They happen to be very good for flashlights, and yet that's not what we find in the torch. So inside of here is a plastic shroud with a couple of PCBs soldered to either end of what is a generic low-quality 18650 battery. Now, there's nothing wrong with 18650s per se, but this could definitely have fit a 21700 battery of the type already used in the truck. In fact, all of these up here are 21700 based flashlights, and not only do they all perform much better than the torch, but most of them are actually smaller. This is the AceBeam E70, a $100 21700 flashlight, which is over 4 times brighter than the torch, and is able to sustain over 1,000 lumens for 2 solid hours. They definitely could have just put a 21700 in here and made this light a lot better, so that's a strange choice. But again, the batteries used in the truck are a lot better, so how does that affect performance? It's a 7,500 pound truck, yet it does 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Now, the thing you should know is that towing any large amount of weight will rather noticeably, dramatically reduce your range. And that's one of the biggest concerns with electric vehicles right now. One of the biggest hesitations people are going to have with buying one of these. Okay, those 7,776 cells individually have good battery life, but range is where this gets interesting. So this R1T was loaned to us by a friend for this video. And it was the first road trip I had ever taken in an EV. We drove 160 miles about to get to this dry desert. And this truck is supposed to have about a 350 mile range, I think they claim. The little dashboard said that we had 330 miles when we started the trip. And it did do a good job. We used about, what, like 150 miles of range, I think. So we didn't have any issues on the trip. But this definitely does have less range than a standard gasoline-powered F-150 or something of that nature. And finding chargers on the way was another challenge. So the dashboard, again, has a map that lets us see where the chargers are located, which was really nice. But it definitely added a layer of stress to this trip of just going out into the middle of nowhere. There's not the same confidence that you would have in a standard ICE vehicle. We drove it a little bit slower also to increase our range, which worked quite well. But there was a whole bunch of cars behind us, probably mad that we were going as slow as we were. So if you were to go the speed limit, you know, this trip might not have been quite so effortless. So we ended up making it all the way there and back with about 15 miles of range left, about 5% of our total battery, which, considering the house that this is now plugged into runs off of solar, means that our trip was free, basically, because it cost nothing to charge this car. However, we were cutting it a little bit close, but ultimately in the end, this did have enough range to do 160 miles there, then 160 miles back without a recharge. So, pretty good. Now, light quality is something that a lot of people overlook in favor for just raw output. And it seems that Rivian did too. The emitter used in this flashlight has a very cool white 6800 Kelvin, almost bluish, and an extended CRI of just 70, meaning it has poor coloration. Basically, this is a lot more like the bluish high beams on an obnoxious truck, rather than the natural, pleasant coloration that I really would have liked to see. I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter that much, it's just a pure utility piece, but emitters with good coloration, high CRI, and good performance do exist, and they're definitely something that I would have liked to see on this luxury product, because the rest of the truck is super luxurious. Okay, yeah, so I gotta escape from the heat by hiding in here. Now, the flashlight being where it is in the door cannot be accessed from the interior of the car, which I guess is kind of a bummer, but there is a lot of really neat lighting accents in here. And just overall, the interior of this car is one of the most impressive aspects. It's just a very nice luxury car interior. All of the materials are very nice. The design aesthetic is very pleasing. It does have a giant screen in the center, which is never something I like. But honestly, as far as giant, stupid touch screens go, this one is actually really nice. I just very much enjoyed being inside of this car on the trip down here. Is there anything else I want to mention about the interior?
The screen is very intuitive.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. I got to tell you, I don't think it is. I've had a little bit of a hard time getting around the first time, and then after that, it was okay. You know, maybe that's with everything.
Now, that approach to design is reflected in the Torch itself. It's a very refined and beautiful design, in my opinion. There are no sharp edges anywhere. It feels really great to hold and use, which I really appreciate. The head and the body tube is a single piece of aluminum, which is pretty cool. That does mean that it's not so easy to disassemble and repair. And like the aesthetic design, that approach to repairability does seem to extend to the truck as well. For example, the rear taillight is a really cool, really pretty design with a single large light bar. But because it's all one integrated piece, a small fender bender on that could end up costing you as much as $42,000. So yeah, that might be a problem. But hey, part of the reason you might carry a flashlight in your truck is for repairs, right? Now, one of the main reasons you would normally carry a flashlight in your truck is so that you can see the engine when you have to access it at night. However, because this is an EV, there's no engine in the front. This is just a front storage area. And in fact, this truck has a lot of storage areas, which is one of its most interesting and compelling features, I think. So most trucks don't have a place where you can hide a body, but this one does. This little side access tunnel is a really unique feature. It's not very comfortable, but if you needed to, like, I don't know, hide in here because it's raining or something, you could. There is an escape latch right here. So of course we have the front and the side storage. If we come around to the back, we have the tailgate. Now there's no actual handle on the back here. There's a button on the key or right here on top. So if we press this, it will open up. Then this button right here opens the cover, which is not very confidence inspiring to say the least. Hey, it actually did open all the way that time though, so that's pretty good. Obviously the cover it's rough. Oh gosh, this thing is problematic.
It closed fine before, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, try close it, it'll probably close better.
Okay. Now the bed itself isn't super large, but it's really nicely designed. One thing that's really cool is this little connector piece thingy that makes sliding gear in and out of here really nice. And right next to it is actually the spare tire. So instead of having it drop to the bottom underneath the car, you can just press down right here and get access to the spare tire, which is super nice. Another thing that I really like, you know, surprisingly enough, are the lights on the inside. There's a light bar on either side, which illuminates the interior at night and just makes it really nice to get stuff in and out when it's dark. I think the lighting on the Rivian in general is really cool. We have this giant light bar on the front, which is actually colored, so it'll show you charging status, and it just does these cool animations when you turn the car on and off. I really like that. The headlights themselves are very effective, actually. So where I live, there's a bunch of these on the road, and surprisingly, they're not incredibly obnoxious and blinding at night, which I'm really happy about. But when you're inside this truck, it actually does a great job of illuminating the road. I wish I could talk a little bit more about the technicalities of these headlights. I don't have super great ability to measure them, but I can just say, having been inside this car at night, they do a really great job. Okay, so the heat is starting to kill me. So what are my opinions on the Rivian torch, the Rivian flashlight? Well, in its own right, it is honestly a high quality flashlight. It's well designed, has pretty good performance, all the things that I look for and care about in a flashlight. This does a good job. Do I recommend that you buy the Rivian flashlight? No, I do not. But if you have a Rivian, you should be grateful that you have it, because honestly, it's a great flashlight. Just too expensive if you don't pay the $70,000 for the truck. I've never been a fan of Teslas. I'm just not really into the whole minimalism thing. But I think what Rivian has done here is a much more refined and sophisticated version of that. I found the experience to just be very pleasant. It's a very nice luxury vehicle. And luxury vehicle it is. I don't think anybody's really going to take this off-roading or try to tow something with it. But riding in it, driving it is a great experience, honestly. So really, I think the question for a lot of you highly wealthy Americans who live extravagant lives is, should you buy this or should you lease it? Considering the longevity concerns with batteries in these vehicles, to me the answer is pretty clear. This is a car that, if you're going to get it, you should probably lease. The Rivian is arguably one of the very best EVs on the market right now, but one of its competitors that has a lot more attention at the moment is the Tesla Cybertruck. This flashlight happens to have the same battery that's used in the Cybertruck. This is a slightly modified 4680 lithium-ion cell. Now, if you're interested in a little more information about this battery, as well as some testing, and maybe what it means for the world of flashlights, you can check out this video.